Dr. Mercy Korir is an accomplished award-winning medical doctor, communication and business executive, recognized for her expertise in health journalism and strategic communication. Her multifaceted background, combining medical expertise with communication and business acumen, positions her as a versatile and impactful professional in healthcare and media sector. A fellow of the International Center for Journalists, she's also an awardee of the Presidential Order of Service Award, Uzalendo Award 2020, for her key media role during the COVID-19 pandemic. A pioneer journalist, Dr. Korir played a pivotal role at the Standard Group PLC, where she served as the editor and the team lead of the Health and Science Desk, where she revolutionized the media landscape by establishing the first ever multimedia health and science desk. Her notable accomplishments include conceptualizing high-quality content for TV, radio, and digital platform, hosting TV health shows, and amplifying revenue growth through strategic partnership. In addition to her medical qualifications, Dr. Korir holds a master's in business administration with a focus on her medical qualification. Dr. Korir holds a master's in business administration with a focus in finance and marketing, a Master of Arts in Communication Studies, among other specialized training in leadership and journalism. Help me welcome Dr. Mercy Korir as she gives her remarks. Dr. Mercy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Korir Ngugi, Dr. Ndieki. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to be part of your wellness forums, to just give what I see as just my perspectives from, years in media and interacting in media, and what I think the doctors can benefit from. It's a pleasure to be here. I was once a student many years ago, undergrad at the UON, so I'm happy to be here with colleagues that I've seen, some of my classmates, some colleagues that I've worked with or we've been together with in the practice of medicine. So it's a pleasure actually to be here and to be part of this wellness forum. So we'll be looking at how we as doctors can use media to our advantage. And media here is not just the mainstream media as we know it. It's also partly social media, digital media space. This is because from the data that we are seeing from the Media Council of Kenya and also the Communication Authority of Kenya, they usually do quarterly reports. Social media and the digital space is quickly growing. When you look at, let me call it market share of the different platforms, television, radio, top of the list, 33% each. But social media, which years ago was single digit market share, is now 18%. And it's actually cited by quite a good number of people, especially the young people, as their main source of news, their main source of information. So we cannot ignore social media in this day and age. Newspapers have had a very steep decline. They are now at 7% in terms of market share. And the young people actually do not even bother with newspapers. So when we are now talking about the use of media, think of it as top of the list from an individual perspective, social media. Think of it as radio, which is like the most popular, and then TV. I put them in these two categories mainly because of social media, the digital space, you have control over it. Radio and TV, somebody else has control over it. And we'll be looking at how you're able to, have space in those particular mainstream media channels. If we're thinking about what the role of media is in the modern healthcare space, media is a very strong source and also supplier of information. If you think of anything that has happened, the vaccine shortages, for example, that had been talked about, if you're thinking of, vaccinations anywhere in the country, the first place you'll go to is probably Google. Then you see which news platforms have reported about it, or who has reported about it, because now when you're talking about social media, there are key accounts, key people, key opinion leaders that would be able to have talked, and it's considered as a credible source of information or credible supply of information. So that's one of the biggest roles of media in modern healthcare, not just in healthcare, but really in society as a whole. It's a source of education, and in this case, we're talking about health education, awareness, and entertainment. And also, it's a very good platform for public health campaigns, like we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen it during the HIV era, TB, where there are campaigns say TB ni tiba for vaccination. If you think about any major public health campaign, media has played a central role in that particular campaign or in that particular dissemination process. So specifically, this is just to go into the details of what the role of media is in public health, is to disseminate public health information. Important messages could be on prevention of disease, healthy lifestyles, emergency preparedness, and this you're doing because you want to reach a wider audience. If you want to raise awareness and promote understanding of a topic, you'd probably want to do that through media. We've seen it when there are specific campaigns that say the government or a hospital wants to do, you'd want to partner with media. You want to have a digital campaign strategy where you are constantly putting out messages of a particular topic, and you're not engaging, as you said, especially on social media. You're even engaging with your audiences so that you're able to take their questions, you're able to verify a few things here and there that the media could be looking at. If you want to influence behavior, you want people to take their kids for vaccination, you want people to go for breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening. So media would be your place to go to when you want people to take up a certain behavior change. It's a good platform to amplify health voices. These are trusted healthcare professionals. So this would be the opportunity for them, to appear in media, either the mainstream media or you having social media conversations, for them to be able to discuss the particular topic in which you want, the community, either the public community or the medical community, to be aware of. And then in this day and era where, one fake news, goes viral, and especially if you think about it, most of the time, people quote doctors, this information was by Dr. So-and-so. So we've seen that usually when somebody quotes Dr. So-and-so in certain kind of information, that it becomes viral. And most of the times it is some piece of fake news or information, or, some story has been exaggerated. Sometimes people say, according to research, when people hear those kind of terms, they automatically think that information is credible. So media plays an important role in just being able to debunk that health-related misinformation, myths, and helping the public, gain confidence on what is really scientific or medical-based evidence, science-based evidence that is being put out there. So that's one of the key things that media would do. So this colorful slide is just some of the things that we've been able to do. If you think of yourselves, you could be, participating in a conversation You could be, and we see even on Twitter Spaces, on Instagram and Facebook Lives, you could be, convening those conversations. These are some of the doctors I interviewed, the public that I interviewed during my time in the media. Of course, this is on a different perspective and a different platform where you have now, mainstream media backing you to, have different conversations. And, and we'll see later on, you are able to partner with journalists with the same vision and mission in the healthcare space to have these conversations happening. So a little bit about the mainstream media that we probably need to understand. Just like medicine, media is bound by certain professional ethics and standards which the media house and the journalists are supposed to abide by. Top of the list is being objective. We're supposed to be impartial, neutral, and fair and objective at all times so that the information we put out there is credible. Media is supposed to be autonomous. That means being independent and free in the work that they do. This does not happen sometimes because of, the media space in Kenya mainly is for profit. So sometimes there's a thin line between independence and, whoever is the source of funds that runs the media. Media runs on immediacy, on speed. If we need the news to be up at 7:30, it has to go up at 7:30 because you cannot have a blank screen, you cannot have a quiet radio, or if the newspaper needs to go to print by, 8:30, you cannot say there's no stories to have had the newspaper ready by then. So there is always, you're always constantly on the clock because you have to make sure that you beat those deadlines and, you have the information that is necessary. So sometimes you will find that, and for people who have had interactions with media, when they call you for a comment, it's probably, we need it now. Very few times are those stories that, they've taken time, they've planned, and so they have time for those stories. But if there is a breaking news story or there's something of public health urgency, if they want that information, they want the information now. And we'll see that because your role then becomes, are you available? Are you willing to give that information with that same speed, with that same sense of urgency that the media has? Ethics, of course, all professionals are guided by certain standards and ethics, moral principles that we are supposed to abide by. And, top of the list is objectivity, fairness, transparency, integrity. Those are some of the things that journalists are supposed to abide by, and the media houses. And then, mainstream, at the end of the day, it's for public service. It's a watchdog. It gathers all the information and disseminates that information for consumption by the public. So why do we need, as a community, a medical community, to bridge the gap between healthcare and the public? One is, as medics, when we put our voices out there, then we are able to reach a wider audience as opposed to when we talk to ourselves or to our patients. And so if you are constantly engaging, say, in the social media space, or you're engaging in the mainstream media, then you'll significantly reach, more people, of course. You'll have more visibility and you'll access, more people in the public. May not necessarily be everyone in the public, because nowadays people are very particular and picky with the kind of news that they are consuming or the kind of information they are consuming. So you, for example, who are in the reproductive health space, would reach a wider audience of people who are interested in reproductive health information. So it could be a section of the public, it could be, non-governmental organizations working, in the space of reproductive health. It could be, the policymakers who are interested in reproductive health. So by being or putting our voices out there, that you're able to reach a wider public. Of course, by reaching wider audience, you increase public awareness of the information or the topic that you're promoting. It could be on disease prevention, it could be educating the public on best practices. So you'd be able to reach out more. Then you're able to facilitate timely communication between yourself and the media so that they disseminate time-sensitive information more quickly. What I was talking about, as a newsroom, we are always, constantly on the run, constantly meeting deadlines. Information needs to be up to date, it needs to be accurate. So you need credible voices to be able to have as part of your news story. So you will be partly capable of being or facilitating that timely link between the health space and the media house when they need that information. And of course, promoting behavior change because of, the kind of information or campaign that you're doing. Then critical to now you as an individual, you're able to enhance trust and credibility. And this is because you'll be able to build a brand yourself as, this trusted source of information. You're able to build your brand in the media space, both mainstream and the social media digital space, as, that person who's reliable, who's consistent, who you can go to for, verifiable source of information. So you also now increase your credibility in the eyes of the public. And, at the end of the day, that also translates to, the number of people who be able to entrust you with their lives as, as a doctor, because what I've seen, especially in this country, is when people see a doctor on TV, for example, then, they believe that the TV station or the radio station did some background to bring somebody who's credible. So you'll even see more people coming to you because they think, daktari tulikuona kwa TV. So whatever it is that you're saying must be credible information, must be really good information. Even some that have been on social media, because you're constantly putting information out there, you're constantly engaging and talking to the public, then they'll be able to trust you with now further as a doctor that can attend to them. Of course, the kind of information that you put out there is important. If you're talking about anything and everything, then people will take you just as everyone else. But if, for example, you're constantly informing the public about, reproductive health issues, or say issues of cancer, pregnancy, anything around your field of study and expertise, then people now will start seeing you more as a professional. So it's not, so it's also important to not just have the quantity in terms of time, space that you have on social media, but also the quality and the kind of information that you have. So this now boils down to you as an individual. What kind of brand do you want to put out there on the media? Do you want to put a brand as a credible doctor who understands their expertise, or do you want to have a brand as, happy-go-lucky, somebody who's just talking about anything and everything? So you really have to think about the kind of brand that you want to put out there. And then two, you really think about which platform would be best for you to be able to, express yourself. We have very many social media platforms. Not all of them might work for everyone. So you find which one are you best suited at. Nowadays, I encourage doctors and any professionals really to utilize LinkedIn a bit more because one, you have space to really write what your thoughts are. You can do photos, you can do videos, and you're able to, brand yourself as an expert in that particular field, and you'll find other experts gravitating towards you because they'll keep, the algorithms will keep recommending your profile to like-minded individuals. So you're able to grow your brand as a professional in that sense. But different things work for different people. Some people are good on Twitter, there's some people X, some people are good on Facebook, Instagram. So you really have to figure out which one are you most comfortable with, one, which one, what kind of image and brand do you want to put out there, and so that you're able to choose the kind of platform to use and the kind of information to put in that platform. And so these are the media platforms, the social media digital platforms that I was talking about. Social media, we all know which ones they are. And the beauty with social media is that it's two-way. And nowadays, people want to also be part of the conversation. They also want to be part of the content. They just don't want you to be pushing information to them. So if you're posting something, people want to see that, you're able to engage, you're able to respond to some of them. You may not be able to respond to everything, but at least when you have that engagement, then people trust that particular platform. At least it confirms to them that it's not a bot that they're engaging with. Podcasts and webinars. These are also some of the low-hanging fruits that you can engage in. Webinars, of course, to reach may be limited in terms of the kind of audience and clientele that you're talking to at that particular time, but it also helps to widen the kind of people that you're reaching out, the kind of audience you're reaching out to, especially in the professional space. Podcast is being able to participate, in informative podcasts. So if you're called to, have a conversation on a podcast about whichever topic, you be more than willing to go to, because that's how you continually build your brand as an individual. You build your brand also as an expert in your field. Blogging and vlogging. This is particularly good, especially for vlogs. Our data in Kenya shows that Kenyans, and I think it's just a thing in Africa, we are more inclined to audiovisual content. We like to see and hear as opposed to reading. So if you could do a lot more audiovisual interactions with your audiences, then that's a plus. And then online medical directories, this is just so that, for example, KMPDC, so that when people are wondering, is this really a doctor, they're able to find you as having been licensed there. It really helps to cement your credibility in the eyes of the public. And even when media is, say, looking for you to discuss any topic of interest, it is good that you make sure you're in good standing with your professional body or any other, body that can vouch for you as a professional. It's good to also be in good standing so that if anyone is looking you up, they're able to see, oh, this person is a member at COGS, this person is registered at KMPDC, so this is a legitimate person. We can engage this particular person. And then mainstream media appearances, you could seek opportunities to be featured in TV, news articles, radio segments, so that you're able to share your experiences and your information and, expertise with the public. So you could proactively seek those opportunities. But what I'm seeing more and more happening is if you are actively engaged, like what I've talked about on your social media spaces and in other interviews, then the mainstream media will just be seeking out to you because they know, one, you're able to discuss these topics, you're not media shy, you know your content, so they are able to quickly engage you when they are looking for somebody to have particular conversations on whichever field of expertise that you're in. So it's two-way. You have to start to build your own brand so that the mainstream media sort of legitimizes whatever you're doing by your own, or they're able to even amplify and even build your profile bigger through social media, through the mainstream appearances. I remember, was it the other day I was talking to somebody and they're like, Dr. Gidinji, all of us know Dr. Gitahi Gidinji of AMREF that the COVID doctor. And this was because he was very proactive on social media, in social media spaces discussing COVID, but also now he was able to attend to mainstream media and or other platforms to be able to discuss COVID. So now, well, he has a bigger brand than Dr. Riwa COVID, but that's just an example of how building your own brand individually will also amplify. I will also help mainstream media, pick you up very quickly and be able to amplify and build your profile online even more. The key thing that I want all of us to be able to remember is that you need to be honest and transparent at all times, because these are the foundations of trust. If people know that you're honest or the information you're giving are, as true as possible, not fabricated, and if you don't know, you're like, I do not know this topic, or I don't quite understand, let me look it up, people tend to trust you more. Of course, everyone understands that we don't always know everything. And so there's room to go and, look it up. So that's very key. Part of honesty also is, and this is when you're engaging with mainstream media, if you're not available, it's just good to say, I'm not available, instead of saying, come at this time. And then when they come at that time to do an interview, for example, you're busy. If something comes up and you had scheduled, it's just good to say, this has come up, I'm not available. Because remember, people on this other side are working constantly they have a timeline, they have a deadline, there are resources involved. So it's always good to have that, a transparent engagement about your availability, your knowledge, your level of expertise. So if it's a topic that you're not well versed in, you could say, yes, I'm an obstetrician, for example, but I think this doctor is the specialist in fertility. You'd better talk to this particular person. And then it helps, cement your relationship with the journalist, because they know, one, you are able to help them when they're in a fix, and two, when there's somebody who can do it better, then you're able to refer them to that person who is able to do, a better job than you. So honesty and transparency is very key if you want to be trusted. And trust really in this space of media is like everything, because if I'm not able to believe in what you're saying, or if I'm not able to believe to trust that you will come at 9 when my show is starting, then that relationship will not go far between myself and you as the expert that I need. This is just about how you could use, social media as an individual, of course, to educate the public on health issues. You could use it in your own practice to inform patients about, what your hours are like, your appointment availability, and other important updates that could be happening in your particular field of study. And then most importantly, it is to connect with the community and engage, with the community. What I was talking about, people are looking for two-way conversations. People just don't want information dumped on them. I need to be able to ask, Daktari, you've said about this and this and this vaccination, for example. Am I eligible at this age? Then you're able to respond. People really like a lot of that. And if you find that if you're engaging a lot more with your social media community, then you tend to get even more followers and, people, coming to you. The effective strategies for media engagement, one is just to build a personal brand, identify a target audience so that you tailor your content to engage the specific groups. And here I would give an example of Dr. Riwamta, Dr. Janet Githinji, who's builds, a profile as, the doctor who can talk to the youth in, our informal settlements. And they really trust the information that she says because she speaks in a language that they understand. I would not even be able to speak in Sheng and English, but she's been able to carve herself a niche as being able to talk to that particular audience. So you also need to know what kind of audience or who you want to target. It could be your ethnic community. Could be Kisii, Kalenjin, Kikuyu. So you want to target that particular audience. So you could, carve out a niche for yourself for that particular audience, depending on how or where you are. Then third is you need to have very clear messages. Avoid medical jargon as much as possible. I know sometimes we are afraid that if we translate this into regular language, then we may lose, we may lose the meaning. But, sometimes when you don't, then you lose out the audience. If you must remain with that particular medical jargon or big word, then you can go ahead and, explain that, this means A, B, C, and D so that people understand. Then people like relatable examples and stories. So you like, for example, say, I once saw a patient with something similar that you're talking about, and this is the process that we went through, or this is what I think about, or, something that people now can understand that, oh, it has happened to somebody else. It's happening to me, but this other person had a good outcome or had this kind of journey. So that's what people want to understand. And then utilize lots of visuals and infographics where possible. Well, I was talking about our kind of audience in this part of the world are very big on seeing and hearing. So if I see a beautiful illustrated slide or a picture, then I'm likely to take time to understand what's happening. But if it's just words, people in this side of the world just tend to, cruise through and move ahead. People want to see and hear. So if you can do a short video, or if it's a very interesting topic, even long videos, people will take time to actually listen or watch. So so you need to look at that. So here I picked Dr. Kalebi, who's a renowned pathologist. We all know him. Hopefully we all know him. He's also an entrepreneur who disrupted the laboratory diagnostic landscape. Back in the day, I was still in med school at the time, and he's made significant contributions in healthcare. I picked Kalebi, one, he's my friend, but two, because I usually feel like we know everything that he's up to. We know either if you follow him on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, you would know that, he's met so-and-so today. This is what he's doing today. And currently he's, setting up a big lab here in Upper Hill. So I usually feel like you're able to walk the journey with him, whether it's the professional life, whether it's personal life. So you're able to, see what is happening. And when I was in media, actually, when anyone needed any topic discussed that was, pathology related or, healthcare related, they would call Dr. Kalebi. And even myself, I would call Dr. Kalebi and, find out, Dr. can you have a conversation with you about this particular topic, and you'd be more than happy to discuss. If he's not available or he's not able to talk to you, be like, no, I think you can talk to so-and-so or this particular topic. Probably this would be the best way to approach it. During COVID-19, I really worked closely with him a lot during, when we were demystifying a lot of the information about testing, availability. And so has been able to build, a brand on social media that translated to mainstream media. And from that, you're able to, build, or he's been able to build a profile that really goes beyond. And so I picked just a few of his posts. There are very many. You can look him up on any of the platforms. You see, when he was his last day going on voluntary retirement, you are able to know that this is the last day that Dr. Kalebi is at Lancet. When he came back and said he's starting a lab, you're able to know that, this is what he's up to. This other one is now, and he was just posting, this is just an example of, you could also be posting about what you're doing, what your work is. And so this is, well, something in pathology. For the lay public, they may not really understand even what's happening, but for your colleagues, they'll be able to get it. And also, anyway, I usually say for the optics of the public, when they see you post something like this, even if they don't understand, then the assumption would be this person knows what they're talking about. This person knows, their craft. And so if I need something done, I'd rather go to this person because I can see the passion that they have for what they do. And, they look like they know what they're doing. And now it helps now if somebody looks you up that you tick all the other boxes, that you've been consistent, you've been, a credible source of information that people can rely on. So you can look him up, and there are many other doctors that I could name of those who've been consistently building their profile on social media. And note the keyword here is consistent, because people need to know that, you are a source of that information. If you post today and then your next post is 1 month later, people will have moved on to somebody else. So you need to be consistent, not necessarily every day, but if you have the energy for every day, you can do it. But you can maybe say on a weekly basis, you're posting something on LinkedIn, or when you have something major that is happening, you make sure that you really have posted, but there needs to be a sense of consistency so that people can see the trend and, they're able to pick and follow up whatever it is that you're doing. These are some of the things that I was talking about, how to effectively communicate on infographics, the patient-friendly language, multimedia storytelling, which I was talking about, if you could have videos, animations. And nowadays you can do this through, some bit of AI. You can there's certain tools that can help you, generate some of these things on your own. If you don't have the time, but you have the budget to have somebody to do some of these things for you, there are many young people nowadays who are able to, navigate even on your phone, to be able to provide you that information. Be empathetic as always. Don't get into unnecessary fights, and, throwing words to other people online, because now that dents your professional image. And as much as possible, try and be that source of, credible information, clarifying when there's fake news, when there are, misinformation that's being, peddled in, could be mainstream media sometimes when they get it wrong, or social media. You could measure your impact, reach, for example, and the kind of engagement that you have on social media. And there are many analytics in which you're able to see, are you making progress or are you not making progress? Are you able to see, if you're not making progress, then you relook at the kind of content you're putting out there, and, you're able to realign it to whatever the needs of the people are. And also through engagement, you're able to see from the feedback that people are giving you, or from the questions that people are giving you, then you're able to tailor and generate more information that addresses the concerns and the questions from the public. Best practices for media engagement, you establish a strong online presence, especially because what I was telling you initially, that the, let me call it market share. When you compare mainstream and social media is really picking up. It's at 18% and it's projected to grow. Leverage on video content, engage with mainstream media as much as possible, utilize the multimedia formats, avoid, negativity online, and know how to handle negative comments. And you know that it's social media, keyboard warriors, people don't know you, so people say anything and everything. So you need to be able to handle those negative comments. You don't need to always respond to them. Some you can ignore, or most of them you can ignore, because sometimes just people, because there's no that physical interaction, they can say anything and everything. Then be professional as much as possible. Respect your patients, their privacy and their confidentiality. If you need to do a video, if you need them to talk, if you need to use their images in any way, make sure you get an informed written consent, especially because of the era, or rather the issues of data privacy. And I say an informed written consent because if it's not written, it was not done. And if anything happens, somebody can say, I did not give permission for you to use my image. And if it was oral, how do you prove that? So you need to have, an informed written consent. And it's something just easy, which exonerates you as a practitioner. And also, you clearly, it's usually a one-pager where the subject releases their right to, the photos and the videos that you've taken for you to use in any platform that you want. So that covers you in case anything happens. We once had, when I was at KTN, we did an interview of a minor whose mother had given consent. But when the story was published, then the father wrote to us in protest saying he did not consent to their child being featured for their child's story to be published in anywhere. And it became a whole disciplinary issue even to the Media Council. Yes, the mother had given consent, but in this case, the father was saying he was not involved. So it's also important, particularly where minors are involved, to engage both parents or whoever is the guardian of that minor to also be part of the consent signing or giving the consent for you to use any image, any audio, or any video for that particular minor. On issues, reproductive health is also very sensitive, and in some areas, depending on where you are, unfortunately, in this day and age, there are some areas where women alone cannot give consent. So you also need to be cognizant of those particular, contexts and different places where, yes, the woman can give you a consent, but you may need to go further ahead and get a male person in that family to give you consent. And male person could be their father, their brother, or their husband to give you that written consent. So just like we take consent for medical practice, you'll also need to take consent for the patient if you're going to use any of their information on social media, because it covers you legally. Two, it also helps that when you have some of your patients as being part of your storytelling or being part of what you're posting, it gives confidence to the public that actually, one, you know what you're doing, and there are people who can corroborate whatever information you say you've done. There's somebody else who can, back you up and say, this has happened to me because of Dr. So-and-so. So it also helps to, build that brand and build you as an expert on the online space, and always be as professional as possible. Of course, there are challenges and risks. Biggest of them in this age is misinformation, including fake news, which always spreads very fast, especially those groups of kinamama for church, chama. Somebody says, according to Dr. So-and-so, according to research, and when it goes to one of those groups, then that information is believed fully. There are ethical considerations to put in mind. You need to balance sound medical advice and personal opinions. If you have a strong opinion about vaccines, for example, you're an anti-vaxxer, you don't advocate for vaccines, and you're a medical doctor, you need to put that personal opinion aside and not propagate it, because if science has shown that vaccines work, who are you as an individual who has a big title as a doctor, who has influence in the public, to mislead the public and say, vaccines don't work, they're known to have A, B, C, and D. It's not really right and fair to the public. If you have strong opinions on, contraceptive use and medical advice says otherwise, you have to hold back on your personal opinions on some of these very hot and controversial topics. And you have to know how to handle those sensitive issues to be as neutral and objective as much as possible. I know most times, and we've seen it even within, the space, and particularly reproductive health is usually one of those spaces that suffers the most when you're talking about contraceptive use, vaccines, abortion. It's usually heated topics that, people tend to forget what medical considerations are there, or, what science is talking about. So you need to know how to navigate to those topics. And as much as possible, for those controversial topics, you need to, put your strong personal opinions in check and consider a lot more about what science has, what evidence is there. And then last but not least is balancing between being available for media engagement, even social media itself. It needs time. It is time for you to think about it. It's not just about posting anything and everything. You need time to conceptualize, to put your thoughts together and, put something out there that is really good, that people can engage in. So you need to really have a delicate balance between the time for that and also your time for other responsibilities. Responsibilities here being to your patients and whatever day-to-day job that you do, and also for family, because you don't want to always be living on social media and you neglect your other responsibilities. Or when you're supposed to see a patient, you're like, no, I'm supposed to have this interview. You need to know how to plan your time very well so that, there's a balance and there's a win-win for everyone. These are what I was talking about. There are many tools and resources that you could use. Online courses are there. Some are free. Webinars, some are free that you could attend to just to see how to, package your information for especially social media. Being in professional organizations and networks that can set up something like this where, we can have a discussion about how to position yourself and use media to, build your brand. Media training programs can be planned for you to participate in, and then useful softwares and applications. Canva, the social media analytics and tracking, like if you post something on Twitter, for example, you're able to see the analytics, how many people engaged, how many retweets and things like that. Use of AI to generate some of these things, you can also do that. And also, it saves a lot of time, and you're able to start now having your own unique way of doing things. If you're able to leverage on some of these things. Everyone nowadays, not everyone, most of us, and especially if you're on this chat, you probably have a smartphone. There are people who have shot very good videos, very good discussions just on a phone. So you're able to really utilize your phone as long as you do the good settings. You don't need to have fancy equipment, fancy lighting. You can just use on your phone as long as you know how to do it, have a stand, and you're able to, shoot your own content. You're able to edit it even for yourself on a phone. You don't need the fancy softwares or the complicated softwares that will be used on social media. So you can subscribe to some of those particular applications so that you're able to, generate your own content that, people are happy to engage in. As I said, we're in the part of the world where people want to see and hear something, not just to read a lot of text, because they get bored in between the text and you lose your audiences from there. I'll wrap it up there so that I dedicate more time to Q&A. Dr. Korir, I hope that was just a brief highlight. This particular topic usually it takes me a lot more, because sometimes these conversations on even how to handle interviews, but if anyone asks, we'll be able to answer that. How to handle interviews, how to prepare for those interviews, how to engage media. So there's a lot more that we could talk about on how to just build your own brand. And that helps you not just for mainstream media, but also if you're doing your own social media or digital content. So I'll stop there so that we are able to have, so that we're able to do a lot of Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Mercy, for that quite insightful talk. I will encourage us to ask questions. You can make use of the chat box. Feel free to unmute yourself and direct the questions to Dr. Mercy. Korir.
Hello, Dr. Korir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the good presentation. Often at times, media personality will reach out to me as a doctor, personally through a phone call, SMS, or a WhatsApp message. And like doctors have a medical council where you can confirm whether this person is real or a fraudulent person trying to get information or something out of you. Does the media have a council where you can confirm a person's legitimate registration prior to engaging them for whatever reason to avoid getting into trouble?
Yes. So the Media Council of Kenya has, it has the register of all the journalists who are licensed to practice in the country. So you can quickly look them up and you're able to see if they are legitimate journalists that are seeking out, seeking you out to be able to participate in an interview. So you can look that up in the Media Council. And that's a very good question because we have a lot of quacks in the media space. And this is because, nowadays anyone and everyone, says they are, journalists because they are looking to extort somebody for one reason or the other. So yeah, it's good to also verify from the Media Council of Kenya. You'd be able to see if somebody has been registered as journalist or not. Secondly, you can do a quick Google search and you'll be able to know if this person is actually a practicing journalist or not. Just like what we're encouraging for doctors to have an online footprint, journalists would also have an online footprint, especially if they have their content published. Then you Google, you'll be able to see the kind of work that they've been able to do before, whether it's on mainstream media or on social media, or on other digital websites. You're able to see what kind of work that they've been able to do. And when you look them up like that, then you're able to see if the topic they're asking you to discuss, if it's within their line or not, or it's something off their line. So you're able even to do your own quick background search and see if that person really is legitimate and if what they're asking you to do is relevant to their work or not. I hope that answers it, Dr. If Dr. Okello?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mercy, for that very elaborate presentation. Yeah, let me just say she was my classmate, and so I'm so proud of all that she's doing. So my question is, I'm in reproductive health, and my question is regarding online consultations. Of course, there are people who have gone, all the way to do telemedicine. There are platforms that patients can engage in to maybe have a consultation online. But there are also instances where maybe patients get your number and they just ask you, do you do online consultations, and how do you go about it? How much do you charge and stuff like that? I'm just wondering, because practicing medicine is sensitive. You see, when you have face-to-face, then you have somewhere you are writing, you've got documentation. And just as you said, what was not written was not done. I'm wondering how, as medical practitioners, we can maybe protect ourselves in the online, not in terms of marketing ourselves, but like online consultations. I don't know what advice you may have for us regarding that matter. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Evelyn. Good to hear from you. So for me, online consultations are usually a no, because people are usually looking for shortcuts, so that they say, but daktari told me to do A, B, C, and D. So always, but that's just my personal opinion, refer somebody to see you in your clinic. If they're not able to, then it's up to them, because if you give somebody any advice online and they take it and something happens, they'll come and say, daktari told me to do A, B, C, and D, or this was daktari's opinion. And if it's online, then there'll be evidence that this and this happened. And we all know patients sometimes may not give you all the information that you need, one. And two, when you see somebody physically, you're able to even make certain, observations and, make certain decisions based on how you see the patient. So for me, any online consultation, I usually discourage. You can give overall general information that, for a situation like this is the information that we know, but for your specific case, you need to see a doctor that will be able to do, the necessary, investigations, examinations, and everything, so that they are able to give you the right diagnosis. So try as much as possible to not give any medical advice online, because if it backfires, they'll come back for you and say, it's you who did A, B, C, and D. For the telemedicine platforms, those ones, at least the ones I've interacted with, at least they have, a medic in the back end. And when there's something that needs further investigation, they're able to refer appropriately. They're able to handle the patients, appropriately. But for this, on your own engagement online, always just refer somebody to be seen physically, either by you or at their nearest facility, or to the nearest person that is there. Because I can tell you, people are always looking for shortcuts. And when I was actively in media, I used to get a lot of that. So I used to just tell people, I don't practice witchcraft, but I can refer you to, somebody who's able to attend to you and be able to give you the right information. Because yeah, people can tell you anything, but once you see them, you do your proper history and examination, then you may find that whatever they're saying is, totally different. WM here on the chat is asking, how do you balance engaging with your audience on social media while maintaining your personal privacy and boundaries? So for my own, as my own brand, I keep my personal life completely out of media, both social and mainstream media, unless, of course, it's relating to the profession or relating to the work that I'm doing. Then that one I'd be able to do. But my personal life, you'd find that, it's out of media, because sometimes, it becomes, there's a thin line between what people know about you out there and, what you want to keep as your own. And this, I think, part of this, and from what I saw in media, sometimes, especially when you post, say, your children, you're like, oh, I'm here to pick my child from school. My child is going to this school, or we've done A, B, C, and D. Somebody will come to your child. This is just a hypothetical example I'm giving. And then they'll be able to tell them, unaitwa so and so, yes. Nilikuona hapa na hapa. Si unaendanga this shule, this is what happens, then that child will think that person is legitimate and, anything can happen. So for my own safety and the safety of the people in my life, I avoid having other personal issues out there. But there are people who blend it seamlessly, like the example I was giving you of Dr. Kalebi. You blend it seamlessly and you're able to, have a balance. So it's really up to you, what I was telling you earlier on, to think about the image that you want to put out there in the public, how you want people to see you, and then you just now build on that. If you're comfortable balancing both of them, or if you're able to balance both of them, that's well and good. If you do not want to, or the people in your life do not want to, then you keep that out. So it really boils down to what objective, what goal you want, and the people around you, what is it that they want. But personally, I keep personal issues out of media, so that I just maintain an image of a professional, a journalist, a medic. That's what I want out there, unless there's some intersection with something private, but there'd be just a little bit of information, not really a lot. And I prefer it like that. It's much cleaner like that. I'll take next question. So Priska is asking me what inspired me to undertake the track of medical journalism. I think that's one of the commonest questions that I still get up to today, and I used to get when I started media. Initially, people thought, oh, you are forced to go and do medicine, now you're doing what you're passionate about, but that's not the case. My getting into journalism or media, back in med school, and my colleagues here would attest to it, I was involved in AMSUN as the editor initially. For the AMSUN magazines back then, we used to call it Synapse. I think nowadays it's called AMSUN Gazette. So as part of that process, and I'd just been interested as somebody who's interested in writing, in putting out information. It was just a hobby. And then we had the 2011 strike, immediately after the registration of KMPDU, advocating for doctors' rights. I remember it started as a Facebook post of poor pay, something, was it poor pay, campaign against poor pay for doctors or something? If somebody remembers, you can remind me. That's how we started KMPDU. So during that strike, I thought at the time that we had a lot of misreporting and underreporting of the strike, because the media just focused on, doctors are striking because they want, better pay. Yes, doctors wanted better pay, but the strike had very many other issues about, working conditions for doctors, the training issues, as in the really many other issues. But what the media understood at the time was, these people are striking because they want just to get paid more money. And that's what the media narrative out there was. And so I thought maybe it could be done differently. Then, of course, I went to practice a bit I was in Machakos as an intern, then Kadiani as an AMO. And, I could see, and partly after being an AMO, partly locoming in Nairobi, I could see there was some misinformation, asymmetry between those in the public sector and in the private sector. And one of the things that really stood out to me was in PIDS, where in the public sector, by the time parent is coming with their child to the hospital, they were really, really very sick, either severe pneumonia, severe diarrhea, severe malnutrition, severe everything. But in the private sector, people were coming, because this child has been looking sick for a day. sometimes that child would become, that's the history the mother is giving, but the child is running around, playing in the consultation room. So I thought, yeah, maybe there's room for information, or there's room for somebody to use the title of a doctor in the media space. So I went back to UON. I did a master's in communications, and mine was just, to see what I could do about it. But when I knocked on the doors of the media houses, KTN opened its doors, and they're like, okay, we could try and see what we could report. And then luckily for me, I think I usually say my career in journalism has been built by crisis. By the time I started by doing an internship in KTN from June 2016. By the time I was done with the internship in 4 months, October, in November, December, that's when we were going to the 100-day strike, or, well, we didn't know it would be a 100-day strike, but that's when it started. So I happened to have been in the newsroom at the right time. And so at that time, they needed somebody who could report on the strike, who could give information on what's happening with the strike. And so I happened to have been at the right place at the right time. So I was able to be part and parcel of, the team that was reporting on that strike. And I think my reporting gave it a different perspective. And that's how I now got to start my career officially in the media space. And so quickly learning how to do news gathering, news stories. Then I started with I remember it was a 3-minute segment of news as Health Digest. Then we went to 5 minutes. Before long, it was 30 minutes, 1 hour. Then I had to break it up because 1 hour was too long. And so that's how I started. Key here is consistency. And I've been really preaching on that, because if I wasn't consistent in doing what I was doing, when I was given 3 minutes, I didn't complain that it was 3 minutes. I did a 3 minutes weekly segment on news and made sure that every other week I had content. When I went even to 30 minutes, I made sure that every week I had content. And slowly, with more consistency, the public reaction and engagement to the brand, myself as a brand, to the health desk as a brand, to the health content of Standard, then now we're able to grow, because now, it even made business sense to the organization, because we had not just individual audience members commenting, responding, asking questions, reaching out, but now we even had corporates wanting to put in money into health reporting that we were doing. And so it even made business. And so that's how we grew from, just thinking, I think there's something that can be done differently, to actually doing that thing differently. It's important to note that I was doing it as an experiment. And I remember even when I interviewed with Joe Ageo, who onboarded me at the time, he was like, we are experimenting. This is an adventure we are trying. Let's see how it goes. So I wasn't really, it was just, let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, I'll go back and practice medicine. But well, it worked. And yeah, this is 8 years later, we are here talking about the story that started as an experiment. Yes, so that's one of the commonest questions I get. And I have gotten even different doctors from different walks of life, MOs, consultants, who want to get into the space. I usually don't have direct answers to how you can get into it. I think for me, it's just start. And if you could start on social media, because it is readily available, low-hanging fruit, then you would be able to, build a brand for yourself. And, you could have your content syndicated by mainstream media, or you could partner with them. I could always find a way. I don't have a straight answer for that, but mine is usually just start. And especially because you can start on social media. When I started back then, social media was not as big as it is now. where, and I've seen doctors do really good content online. They have videos, they are short, they have lights, people are doing podcasts. It's not the way it was back then. I had to go to a newsroom for me to be able to learn to do things that we are able to do. So because social media is there readily available, everyone has a good smartphone, you don't really need much. I think just start and build your brand from there. Thanks, Stella, for confirming to me. We started KMPDU as United Against the Poor Pay of Doctors in Kenya. Yes, so that was the Facebook page that grew into KMPDU back in the day. Nyawera asking about some tips on participating in panel discussions in the media. Yes, so when media reaches out to you for a panel, or when media reaches out to you, it's important to ask whether you'll be solo or in a panel. If you'll be solo, then it means you need to be on top of your content. You need a lot more information about the topic. 2, you need to ask about what the topic is. I know some doctors want to be given questions. Most times it's really not possible, but they can give you a highlight of what the topic is. So for example, you'll be told maybe we are discussing about cervical cancer and we want to focus on the vaccination and the pros and cons. So with that, already you have in mind what the topic is. And then 3, for you to prepare for your topic, I usually say group your answers in 3 for everything, so that you have like your 3 key points. And this is because, especially for TV and radio, you don't have time. So you need to be very quick. So you need to have your key points as your top 3 points. Of course, add others in case you're alone, so that you have a lot more information to talk about. If it's a panel discussion, it's important to ask who else is in the panel. For 2 reasons. You just need to be comfortable knowing who else will be part of the conversation, what their strengths are, what they're representing. So maybe you're the doctor, maybe there's a government representative, maybe there's somebody from the development world, maybe there's a patient there. So you need to know who else is in the panel so that you know what your role is. Secondly, is sometimes, and for media, we like to have, a debate. So maybe you're pro-vaccines and you're being put to have a conversation with somebody who is anti-vaccines. If personally you feel like you don't want to be in that space, then you're able to decline. If you're comfortable with that, then it means you're able to go and participate in that particular conversation. So it's always important to know who is in that panel discussion and what your exact role will be. And then the last thing you need to ask is the duration of, actually 2 more things. You need to know the duration of that particular interview. If it's a 15-minute interview, you plan accordingly. If it's a 1-hour interview, you plan accordingly. You can already tell, if I'm telling you the interview is 15 minutes, then you know it's a short interview to the point. If it's a 1 hour, then you know it's a whole discussion about a lot of things. And sometimes because of the follow-up questions, the discussion may go into different tangents. So you need to have prepared psychologically for that. Then the last but not least is you need to know you need to know if it's live or recorded. And simply because of one thing, if it's a live show, then once you say something, you have said it. And these times what media houses do is, you have clips of what you've said. And by the time you're done with the show, those ones are already on social media. They've already been spread. They are even on WhatsApp. So you need to know if it's a live discussion, then you need to know, you need to be on top of your game even more. You need to have your content on your fingertips even more. If it's a recorded conversation, then you can always say, cut. Can we retake that? Can we redo this? But a recorded conversation for a panel discussion, however, will be more like a live discussion. So you don't have space to say, cut. So if it's a panel discussion and it's recorded, then you treat it as a live conversation. If you're alone and it's recorded, then you're able to tell them, no, don't use that content. Let's retake this, so you have a lot more leeway. So that is just to help you psychologically for the interview and to know what you're going to do. Some of the do's and don'ts, and this is just even for just dress code. For men, it's usually fairly straightforward. You just need to be in a nice shirt, preferably a colored one, and a coat or a tie. But men, it's usually just be as neat as possible. If you're not going to have a coat, you just have your long-sleeved shirt neat. But for ladies, we have a lot more. Have like a block color attire, so that you then have lots of prints, because a lot of prints tend to run on screen. Then you need to know if you're going to a green screen. If you're going to a green screen, then don't wear something green, because you'll disappear into the green screen. That happened to me once. I showed up in something green, and kumbe the background was green. So you could only see my face and part of the dress that was not green. So you need to also know that, so that you're able to choose your attire accordingly. Makeup, if you're not a makeup person, don't wear makeup that day, because now you'll be wondering, am I looking okay? Is this fine? Is it too much? Then, you'll not be comfortable. So you make sure you are as comfortable as possible during that particular interview. Then get there on time. Media houses or those studios sometimes can be intimidating. So you need to get there maybe 30 minutes early, so that, you acclimatize and you're used to the light, the heat, the people, the cameras, if you're not used to it, so that, it's just plug and play once your time for the engagement or the media appearance is on. Let me see which other questions. How do you handle ethical issues when reporting malpractice? So for me, my definition of malpractice, being a doctor, I always go back to KMPDC to see if it's something, if somebody, because many people will come and say, accuse doctors of negligence. It happens a lot. And I think I even told doctors in some forums, sometimes just failure in communication, where as a doctor, you've not really informed the patient about, say, if you're going for surgery, about that surgery, about, the risks of it. So something happens, and, they accuse you of malpractice or of negligence, usually a miscommunication. So what I usually do is, one, check with the KMPDC if it's actually a case that has been lodged or not. If they haven't lodged a case, I usually just refer them, just go to KMPDC first, report whatever issue that you're alleging. And once you get that response from KMPDC, then you are able to report that story and, be able to see what the council is saying, or responding to, or what you're saying, because I'm aware many people, especially when they know you report on health, they're always accusing doctors of negligence, left, right, and center. And sometimes some things, maybe it's a known complication of whatever procedure that they were doing. So I always want them to have it. I usually take it as if it's the way you would report to the police station when there's a case. Once you reported at the police station, then I take it as, now it's a legitimate concern. And then I go ahead and, hear what KMPDC has acknowledged and responded, so that in part of the reporting, we are saying the medical council has acknowledged, and this matter is now under investigation by the medical council. And I do that, one, just so that I do right by the doctor as much as doing right by the patient, but also just so that my colleagues in media also know that not everyone who alleges negligence and malpractice is actually right, so that they know the right process to follow, so that everyone, is objectively heard. Give an insight of how to handle a hostile interviewer. How do you handle a hostile interviewer? If it's a recorded interview, you can leave. If it's a live interview, you could find a way of, handling the questions as professional as possible. I don't advocate for walking out of the interview, because then they will say, you know, you walked out of the interview, it will look like it's arrogance or rudeness. So I usually try as much as possible to be professional for a recorded interview, for a live interview. If it's a recorded interview, just excuse yourself and say, you know, I don't have anything more to say. I'd like to end it there. Joel, Dr. Lesan. Oh, thank you. Saying it's a great presentation, particularly on social media aspects. Thank you, Priska. And Joyce. Okay, kudos for taking the road list. Okay, thank you very much. So, is there any other questions?
Thank you, Dr. Massey, for taking us through the Q&A. I must be honest, it's a privilege, and congratulations for your insights and your thought-provoking talk. I might say it was unique in a way, because we are used to the traditional mainstream media, and now the modern methods such as the social media, the use of artificial intelligence coming in, and in our space as reproductive health personnel, I think it's more than a privilege to have had you at this point. I want to welcome Dr. Diana Undeki, our patron, to give her remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Korir. Thank you very much, Dr. Mercy Korir. That was very insightful. It was actually a very great presentation, and we're very grateful for that. At least at this point, doctors are allowed to advertise, because the only other way people had of getting themselves out was through mainstream media. So either writing the newspapers or appearing for views. But at least also now there is social media, so people are able to use that platform. There's a gynecologist who's been able to get a brand out. He's known as Daktari wa Bypass. So he normally talks on the vernacular radio, the Kikuyu, one of the Kikuyu radio stations, and he's known literally by everybody on the ground in the community. So at least he's been able to create a brand, and he's able to get information out to his people in the community. Other people are working with counties. So initially they started out as county officers, but now they are also having their own YouTube channels. So thank you very much. I know most of the time we have to be ready, because the opportunities will come in abrupt. So people don't expect to be given a 2 weeks notice or something like that. So most of the time the opportunities will come with a day notice or even a few hours notice, and we should be able to take them up. So thank you very much, Dr. Mercy Korir, for your time, for the insights. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Over to you, Dr. Korir.
Thank you. Any parting shot, Dr. Mercy, before we close?
No, just to thank the UN OBGYN Wellness Forum for this opportunity. Thank you for, you know, giving me the audience to speak to. You know, it's also part of what I was talking about when you participate in webinars. It's also part of building your brand and putting your name out there. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for your very kind words. I'm always reachable and available should anyone need, you know, information. I don't usually do and especially for doctors, like if you need somebody to walk through on your personal brand and, you know, building your personal image on, you know, social media, I'm always happy to have conversations, you know, and help out. So if in case anyone wants to have those kind of conversations, I'm always reachable, especially by doctors. My parting shot would be just to encourage you to not shy away from media. It's a double-edged sword, I know, but you can use the edge that really sharpens you as a professional, that really builds you as a professional and as an expert in your field. So don't shy away, utilize it as much as possible, because you never know what it will do to your professional life as a doctor, and also your business life, especially if you're, say, running a clinic or something like that. So don't shy away from media, utilize it to build your brand and grow your profession. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Somebody was asking for your contacts.
I have put my number there.
Okay.
You can reach me on WhatsApp. Let me also just put my email address.
Thank you very much. I'll welcome Dr. Ida, our wellness forum colleague, to make her comments.
Good evening, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Dr. Mercy Korir. It has been an honor to have you on board. Thank you, our patron, Dr. Diana Ondieki. Just to make an announcement that these wellness forums happen every first Friday of the month. Unfortunately, we will not have our July edition due to the upcoming exams. And on this note, we want to wish the year ones, the year threes, and the year fours all the best of success in your exams, and go and make yourselves proud, pass your exams. We will have the next forum in August. That will be the 2nd of August, Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It has always been a joy to have you on these wellness forums, and we look forward to having you in August. Thank you very much, and do have an amazing day.